Following one of the best performances that we've ever seen from the U.S. men's national team in their 2-0 victory over Mexico, U.S. men's national team heads to Jamaica for a really disappointing 1-1 tie World Cup Qualifier down in Kingston. It was a game that the U.S., if we're honest, I mean, we were lucky to get away with that one. With a tie, we were lucky to get away from this window with 4 points because the Reggae Boyz were really taking it to us, especially in that second half. And there's some valid reasons why that was happening. So what went right and more importantly, what went wrong, we're going to get into all that and more on this live edition of the Yank Report, and this is live, guys. So thank you guys for coming out. If the audio is not great or anything like that, let me know in the comment section. And if you have something you want to contribute, let me know in the comment section. I'll be reading comments throughout. If you have not already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if U.S. soccer is something that you're into. Now let's get into this game. I think starting out, this was the lineup that everybody wanted to see. I mean, this was largely the lineup that I predicted and the lineup that pretty much Twitter unanimously wanted to see, with Cabuccio in the middle and, Pepe, Weah, and Aronson up top, Chris Richards in the back. And let's start out with that first half from Jean-Luc Cabuccio, because he's the player that has been getting a lot of hype. From me, but from a lot of the players in the U.S. Men's national team community. And Cabuccio just never really kind of found the game, I don't think. And I think that we saw a player that was playing his first game with this midfield. We've been talking about the MMA midfield. If you remember, the first game that the MMA midfield played against Jamaica in World Cup qualifying, it was okay. It was good. It showed a lot of promising signs. The second game against Costa Rica was a lot better. And then that third game against Mexico was a whole lot better. So this was the first time that we saw Cabuccio, Musa, and Adams play together. And you could see that, Cabuccio is definitely not Weston McKennie, doesn't get in those same type of positions. And Tyler and Musa, especially in the first half, just didn't really find him, didn't really look for him. Part of that was Cabuccio not getting into Cabuccio. I'm combining Cabuccio and Musa. Part of that was Cabuccio not getting into great spaces, but another part of that was when Cabuccio was in good spaces, Adams and Musa didn't really look for him. Because the way that the MMA midfield plays is like, go, 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 get upfield as fast as possible. And that's not really Cabuccio's style. Cabuccio's more of like a maintain possession, get the ball to him, slow it down, and then he surveys the field and finds a good pass. I think that we saw a little bit better of it in the second half, but in that first half especially, man, Cabuccio just did not look great. Whew. So let me find my notes real quick because we got a lot of stuff to go over in this particular game. I think there's some other players that just did not really have great games, and we'll get into all that. But like the first 10 minutes, I mean, we started out and I thought it was going to be like a massive result from the U.S. because Tim Weah gets a goal at the 10th minute mark, and it's a goal where I think Cabuccio slips in Weah, and then Weah has a ball into Pepe, and Pepe squares it right back to Weah, and then Weah kind of has a loose touch, but then he's able to gather it back and just have a really nice bit of skill and kind of chip the ball over Andre Blake's shoulder and tap, just kiss off the post and roll in. And it was a fantastic goal. It was a fantastic little sequence, and it really gave us hope that like what we saw against Mexico was just going to continue right into this game against Jamaica. And I think early on, you could see that field at the end of the game. That field at the end of the game looked like it had been shell-shocked. At the beginning of the game, the ball was rolling a little bit smoother, and it played into the ability for the U.S. to have them nice sequences. But towards the end of the game, it just turned into a championship style match, an English championship style match, where it was just headers up and down the field. I thought in this sequence, and then in one a few minutes later, where Pepe has a layoff over the top to Weah. Weah gets down to the corner and saves it, and then he crosses it in for Pepe. That shot is stopped, and then Aronson gets an opportunity, and his shot is also deflected wide. We saw Pepe get into some really good spots and play some really nice balls in behind, some really nice one-touch passes for for especially Weah to run onto, and I thought he looked good doing that. But whenever it came around to him actually attacking the box and getting into good spaces, we still didn't really see that for Pepe. There still seems to be some disconnect between where Pepe likes to get the ball and where Weah likes to serve it in. So I saw one in particular. Weah had a service into the box. I believe it was in the second half, and it was very similar to the one that Christian Pulisic scored that header on against Mexico. It was just a hard ball right about head height, flashed right across Andre Blake's goal, and there was two players in the box, and neither of them made that run. So you could see that those players just aren't quite on the same page, and that's something that just takes time. Moving on, in the 21st minute, I mean, Mikel Antonio, guys. Antonio picks up a ball in midfield. He shrugs off Tyler Adams, and he rifles a shot past Steffen. And this is one of those moments where, up to that point, the U.S. had just not allowed Jamaica's front line to get the ball at all. We were winning a lot of stuff in the air, and we were getting to all the second balls. This was a second ball that just kind of bounced into a space that Mikel Antonio was in, and he was pretty far away from goal, and we had the guy on him that you'd want to have on him in Tyler Adams, and Tyler Adams really got after him. But Mikel Antonio is just a strong individual, and he's able to shrug him off and just hit that rocket of a shot past Zach Steffen. Now, the big discussion during the game and post-game has been, like, would Matt Turner have saved that? And who knows, man. I mean, that was an absolute rifle blast past the keeper. What I do know is that what Zach Steffen is supposed to bring to the table is distribution, and this was one of the poorest games in distribution that I've seen from Zach Steffen in a while. Now, part of that was because the pitch that they were playing on, I mean, you could see whether it was the U.S. or Jamaica, hitting long balls was real tough, man. They were struggling to get any type of accuracy on their passes. So maybe this wasn't the game for Steffen to really distribute, but we definitely didn't see that from Steffen, and that's supposed to be the big thing that he brings to the table is his distribution. In the 38th minute, Chris Richards has a maybe handball. It definitely hits off of his shoulder, but he definitely threw his shoulder into that ball. So whether that's ball to hand, ball to shoulder or shoulder to ball, I don't know. We don't have VAR in CONCACAF. The ref let it go, which he did a lot in this game. The ref let a ton go. I mean, Jamaica was having some really, what I would consider like orange to purple tackles out there, and they weren't even getting cards. And yet, at the end of the game, the ref kind of comes up big for the U.S. and takes away a goal that we've seen given a ton of time. So the ref kind of had a weird game. In the 38th minute, I made a note about Anthony Robinson in the first half. I thought Anthony Robinson was looking strong defensively against Leon Bailey, but his touch, man, his touch was absolutely awful. And I was wondering if in the second half it would get better, and it didn't. It never did. He had one of the worst games offensively that I've seen him have in a long time. I mean, I talked about, like, prior to World Cup qualifying, Anthony Robinson just did not look great in possession of the ball, and his touch was not great, and his passing was not great. But in World Cup qualifying, we've seen a totally different Anthony Robinson, and he's been wonderful. Far and away the best left back I've seen from the national team since, I don't know, Fabian Johnson, just a long time. But in this game, Anthony Robinson just did not have a great touch at all. One of the poorest games that I've seen from Robinson in a while. And I'll say, I don't want to just put it on Robinson. I mean, whenever the service into the box from the fullbacks was bad. Like, I know that Yedlin is not great at crossing the ball, but Anthony Robinson, one of his strengths is crossing the ball, and his crosses into the box were just not quite it. Yeah. Catherine Beatty says Robinson was not good tonight, and I gotta agree, man. I gotta agree, and we really saw the two players that we were missing in Weston McKennie and Miles Robinson. I mean, two players who were phenomenal in the air, two fantastic athletes, two players that bring a lot of leadership and energy. But tonight we were missing players who were strong in the air. We were missing athleticism, and we were missing energy out there, and it really showed. Walter Roman says this was a totally different Jamaica team today. And Walter, I think you're right. I think we see what this Jamaica team could be. Like whenever they have Michail Antonio, and this is Michail Antonio's second game in qualifying with this squad. It was his first start in qualifying with him. So you see what they could be. I mean, Michail Antonio looks to be every bit of the best striker in CONCACAF right now. Leon Bailey can be a dangerous player out there. And some of those other players that they have in the attack are not bad players. Reed is not a bad player, even though he had a terrible miss in the sixth that really should have put the U.S. away, but he was unable to connect on that. This is the squad Jamaica. Like everybody thought that Jamaica was going to be vying for that third or fourth place position. This is the squad that we thought they were going to bring to the table. They haven't done it so far, but they did a great job tonight. At halftime, man, I took a few notes at halftime. I said Buccio's not finding great spaces. He looked kind of lost out there. Maybe not lost because he didn't know what he was doing, but lost because the rest of the team didn't know what he was doing. You could tell that there was a total lack of cohesion there between Buccio and the rest of the squad. I was hoping that it would get better in the second half, and it did. It did a little bit, and towards the end of the game, you could see Adams kind of deferring to Buccio in the build-up and letting him kind of make some nice passes. But still, I think it would have been nice if we could have consistently seen Buccio really get more touches on the ball and really be able to operate as a deep-lying playmaker, and it just didn't happen tonight. I think so much of that is just lack of game minutes between Buccio and Musa and Adams. And hopefully moving forward, hopefully this is the worst game we see from Buccio for the national team for a long time, because next time they play, it'll be a little bit better, a little bit smoother. But tonight, we really saw that from Buccio, we saw that this was his first start away in CONCACAF, and all that entails, the hard fouls, the big physical teams, the not-so-great pitch, the vuvuzelas the whole time, the referee just kind of letting anything go. Not a great game for him from Buccio. It looked like in the first half, whenever the U.S. was counterattacking, we were really pressing with those long balls. We were trying to play long balls in behind at times when we didn't really need to, kind of just playing right to the feet of the Jamaican defenders. And that was not playing to our strengths. There was a bunch of moments where either maybe Adams or Walker Zimmerman or Musa kind of broke into the midfield and were running at the Jamaican back line and just played long balls early, where we really could have taken up that space. But it didn't work really well. So we go into halftime with that 1-1 tie, and everybody was waiting for the late game whenever Christian Pulisic would come on and kind of bring a spark into this game. And whenever he finally did, I think it was a little bit too late, especially in a game where the ref was just kind of letting anything go as far as the tackles. He wasn't really taking those cards out. Still, in the 51st minute, we see what Jean-Luc Cabuccio can bring to this table for this team. I believe Musa finds him outside the box, and he has a nice curling effort. It looked like Andre Blake would have saved it if it was under the bar, but really just a nice moment, a nice shot from distance. Shooting from distance is not something that we've seen from this team very much, so I was happy to see that Buccio pulled the trigger on that one. Unfortunately, it was over the bar, and it wasn't to be. In the 52nd minute, I mean, I don't know what the U.S. did to deserve this game, but we really got away with a lot tonight. In the 52nd minute, a cross to the back post finds Anthony Robinson, and Anthony Robinson just touches it back across the six, right into the path of Reed, and Reed just skies it. I mean, Reed is basically in the goal, and I guess the trajectory of his shot had to be straight up, but he somehow skied it from just feet away. Crazy moment where Jamaica could have gone up 2-1 and definitely should have gone up 2-1. It was just another moment where Anthony Robinson I don't know what happened to his feet, but he did not bring his soccer boots to Jamaica tonight. In the 60th minute, Tim Weah hammers across into the sixth. No one's home. No one's making that run. It was the same kind of cross that we saw Christian Pulisic score on against Mexico. But, both Aronson and Pepe don't seem to make that run, that run right across the face of the keeper. And that's the run that I think Weah's looking for. That's the run that Pulisic seems to make whenever he's in the box. But a big moment that could have been that falls short. In the 66th, we see Weah and Musa go out, and Pulisic and Acosta come in, and that was a disappointing moment because I think Weah and Musa were the most effective players of the first half. They were also two of the bigger players on the field for us, and whenever they came off the field, we really saw the ball in the air advantage really tilt towards Jamaica. They had much bigger players on the field, and we really failed to do much of anything in the air after that. Jamaica was able to win most of the balls that we sent up top. So I was really disappointed to see Musa come off and Weah especially. And I don't understand why. It's not like, I mean, we don't have another game, so like, what are we saving him for? Just play him. I didn't get that. I thought that was a little bit of a galaxy brain move there from Berhalter. Disappointing. I would have loved to have seen Pulisic and Weah on the field at the same time running at the defense. That proved to be very dangerous against Mexico, but we didn't get to see it. And I think it's clear at this point that Brendan Aronson just does not bring as much offensively in the final third that Tim Weah does. Brendan Aronson is fantastic at pressing the ball. He's a tireless runner. Somebody in chat said he's a son of a bitch, and yeah, I'd agree with that. He's all of those things, but whenever it comes to just being the wonderful attacking play in the final third, he just doesn't bring that to the table. So it was disappointing to see him come off. Now Pulisic comes on with Kellen Acosta. Kellen Acosta, I guess, is there to add strength and solidity to the midfield, but he's not going to be able to do what Musa does. And once Musa left the field, the U.S.'s ability to bring the ball up from the back really fell off. Our ability to possess the ball from our defensive third to the attacking third fell off the table, man, and it just played right into Jamaica's hands. So that was the moment where I think we really, I don't want to say lost the game, but lost really our ability to win the game in that moment. In the 73rd, Morrison had a really nice shot on goal from outside the box. It was another moment where Jamaica just hit it high to their front line, and I'm sure it was Antonio because he absolutely manhandled one of our center backs and had a nice ball back, and Morrison was able to put it on frame. Fairly easy stop for Stefan, but it was another dangerous moment that could have been more. In the 74th, Yedlin gets a ball in behind to the touchline, and he plays the ball back into the box, but it was a really poor ball. I mean, Pepe was there in space, was an option for him, but it wasn't to be in that moment. Matt Gates says, "At least we didn't lose." Yeah, that's about where I'm sitting right now. We didn't lose. We still got 4 points from this window. And then the final thing I wrote down was in that 84th minute. Of course, Jamaica has that disallowed goal. Lowe pushes Zimmerman. It was a very soft push. It was a very fortunate call if you're a U.S. men's national team fan. But that happens, man. And Jamaica only get 1 point from this game, whenever it definitely could have been 3. So this is a moment where if you're the U.S. men's national team, you say thank you, you collect your point, and you get out of town. The U.S. is still in a fantastic position to qualify for the World Cup. We still have all of our goals in front of us, and we're able to get out of this one alive. And this is really what I was worried about when we were heading into that Mexico game. This is why that Mexico game was so important, man, because getting victories away in CONCACAF is very difficult, and there's a lot of variance in this game. This is not a game where the best team always wins. This is not a game where like Chelsea beats, I don't know, a team at the bottom beats Norwich City every time they play them. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes you get bad cards. Sometimes somebody hits an absolute wonder strike like Mikel Antonio. Sometimes, just anything can happen. So having that variance and having those that win against Mexico puts the U.S. in a position where an away fixture like this doesn't hurt quite as bad. And whenever we come back from qualifying, we'll still be in a wonderful position. Now, the big thing moving forward is like what Connor Strauss says right here. Why can't we have one dominant window? And I think that's the question on a lot of U.S. men's national teams' minds right now. Why can't we put a game together away in CONCACAF? And I think if we look back at CONCACAF right now, all the struggles that we've had for the most part have been away. That's where we failed to play the kind of soccer that we want to see from the squad. And part of that is because of the lineup selection that Greg's putting out there for for away games, like that game against Panama. We just did not have the lineup necessary to win that game. Tonight, I think we did, but I think we saw some of those other factors that away at CONCACAF brings. And it also speaks to the depth of this squad. I think if Weston McKennie and Miles Robinson are in this squad, I think we might be able to have a different result. I think we're a little bit better in this game. Weston McKennie just brings so much. But once you start losing players, we were already without Gio Reyna heading into this camp, and Pulisic was injured. Suddenly, the players that are coming off the bench are a little bit farther off in form and ability, and I think we saw that losing Weston McKennie and bringing in Jean-Luc Cabuccio. It just was not. It was not the same. It was a big drop off. It was a player that the players were not used to playing with, and it really showed out there. Now, the upside to this is that I think this is growing pains for a very young, inexperienced squad. I think so many of these players are 19, 20 years old, whatever, getting their first couple of caps, playing their first World Cup qualifier games. And as we move forward, remember the World Cup is a year away. I think by the time the World Cup rolls around, the issues that we saw between Adams and Bucio and Musa are not going to be quite as apparent. I think that they're going to be much more together, much more flowing, understanding where each other are going to be. And the next time they play together, or even like a year from now, whenever they play together, it's going to be a much more attractive brand of soccer moving through the midfield. But tonight it was not what we needed. GTM says, we looked timid and flat, really lacked the urgency we saw against Mexico. And yeah, I mean, that was it. Whenever you say timid and flat in the context of the U.S. men's national team, you have to think about Weston McKennie. I mean, Weston McKennie's that guy that just brings all the emotion and energy to the squad, and that was really lacking tonight. You could see that, I think from the first whistle, that the U.S. were just not quite on that same emotional wavelength. And I mean, whenever you looked at that crowd, I mean, there was like a couple thousand people there. So it definitely was a notch down from playing in front of a packed stadium in Cincinnati with all that hype and emotion leading up to that game. It was definitely like a trap game, like they say. So disappointing result, disappointing urgency and energy from the squad, but you do get that point, and we're still in great contention moving forward to qualify for the World Cup. GTM says, is Hoppy even 90 minutes fit? Last time I checked, Hoppy was injured. He hasn't been playing at all for Mallorca. Things seem to be not very good between Hoppy and his club right now. I would not expect Hoppy to be called in unless he starts playing for that squad, and that seems to be a real issue right now. There's rumors that he's even going to be sold or transferred during the winter. So whatever is going on between Hoppy and Mallorca, it's not good. I wouldn't expect to see him anytime soon. Greg Dubbs says, to be fair, I think Pepe was linking well in the attack, but really needed to see some better touches from him in behind and around the box. Yeah, I thought what Pepe was bringing was working. I don't think Pepe was the reason why we were struggling. I think that there was a lot of bad touches at bad times from other players, and I think that there's still, this is still a very young squad and a very inexperienced squad. Pepe only has a handful of games with these guys, and I think there's still that lack of familiarity in this bunch where Pepe doesn't know what runs he needs to make for Weah, and Weah doesn't know where Pepe's going to be in the box. So you see a lot of moments where Weah's making really nice crosses, but there's nobody at the end of them because they don't really know where each other is going to be in the box. And I think that's the issue that we're seeing right now. Matt Gates says, we got lucky to get 1 point. We've got a long way to go to be dreaming of a Final 8 at the World Cup. Yeah, I think Final 8, that's a lot right now. Final 8, that's 6 games, right? I think what we're really looking to do is get that 5th game, that elusive 5th game. I know Mexico's been chasing after the 5th game. There's a phrase in Spanish that I can't remember right now. Partido de cinco or partido cinco? I don't know what it is. But the 5th game is really what the U.S.'s goal is right now, man. Gruber says, Jamaica deserved to be robbed from those damn horns. Yeah, the return of the Vuvuzelas is never something that I'm looking forward to, man. I mean, that World Cup against South Africa, it was like romantic at the time for what it was because I'd never really seen it before as a soccer fan. I remember hearing them at hockey games whenever I was growing up, but now at this point, a Vuvuzela, I mean, that World Cup was like 15 years ago at this point. So a Vuvuzela now just is like nails on a chalkboard, and it's pretty much my least favorite thing. El Quinto Partido, that's what it is. The fifth game. That's the elusive game that Mexico has been chasing for years, and I think that that's basically what the U.S. is chasing right now. In order to get beyond that, we'd really need some luck with how things shake out, because that's just kind of how a World Cup goes. So much of a World Cup is like who you're playing, how things shake out. Do you get a favorable matchup once you get to the round of 16 and beyond that? I don't think that we have a squad that's really gonna command a top 8 World Cup qualifying team like just right off the bat. That's you got to have some really top players across the board and players in their prime. And even a year from now, we're not quite gonna have that. Walter Roman says, wanted to win the game, but I think I'm okay with a draw because this game could have turned out much worse for us. Jamaica's front three looks scary. And yeah, that's about where I'm at with it, Walter. That's about where I'm at with it, Walter. I mean, I've seen this game so many times away in CONCACAF where it doesn't play out well for the U.S. I've seen so many times where that push-off isn't called, that goal isn't disallowed, and the U.S. lose. I've seen that game play out where, what's his name? I think it was Reed, whenever he had that ball in the 6-yard box just right in front of Stephen's goal where he puts that away instead of skying it. The U.S. really got away with one tonight, and that's okay, man. I mean, if you'd have asked me before World Cup qualifying, like, is the U.S. going to win every game away? I'd have said no. If you'd have asked me, are the U.S. going to have some scary moments away in CONCACAF qualifying, I would have said absolutely. You know, and you don't really know when that moment's going to come. And whenever the moment does come, you kind of hope that that fate shines favorably upon you, like it did tonight. So I'm not super disappointed with this game because, you know, the team's not going to play for a while. So by the time we come back, it's kind of going to be ancient history, and it's just going to be about moving forward. We did some things that are positive for the group moving forward. We got another 90 minutes for Chris Richards. We got 90 minutes for Jean-Luc Cabuccio. We had another 90 minutes against Mexico where the MMA midfield could play together. We saw Tim Weah just really turn a corner for this squad. I think Ricardo Pepi, even though he didn't score in this window, I think he had some really nice moments that are going to build confidence for him. I think this was a really good window for the U.S., all things considered. Greg Dubb says, assuming an entirely fit squad, who do you think are the starting squad and what formation best suits them? I think it's a 4-3-3, and let's see if I can do this off of memory. Dest, Miles Robinson, boy, is John Brooks. What do you guys think about John Brooks? Do you think John Brooks deserves to be in this squad, like starting for this squad right now? Because Walker Zimmerman's playing really well. I'll say Miles Robinson. I'll say John Brooks, Anthony Robinson, and then I'll go MMA midfield, and then the front three of Pulisic, Pepe, and Reyna right now. I think that's the strongest squad that we can put on the field. But we haven't really seen the all 11 players, our best 11, come together in a long time, and it's not something I even expect at this point. I'm just assuming that there's always going to be injuries, and there's always going to be players kind of coming in and out of form. Yunus Musa hasn't been playing very much at Valencia at all in October, so there's a possibility there that by the time the U.S. comes around for our next World Cup qualifier, Yunus Musa wouldn't have played much for Valencia at that point and would be totally out of form. I mean, there's a world where that happens, so that's something that we gotta be okay with and account for. So that's something. Any blame on Zach on that goal from Adam Stam? I'm not a goalkeeping expert, so I'll kind of let the goalkeepers say what they have to say on that one. I mean, people are going to break that down, whether or not he planted properly and got the correct explosion in order to get over and save that goal, especially whenever you consider that Turner Turner's ability to plant and explode is absolutely phenomenal, like off the charts phenomenal. So I can see that there is a world where Turner gets to that, and we've seen in the Gold Cup, Turner just makes ridiculous saves. But I'm not qualified as a goalkeeper to say whether or not officially Turner would have got to that, or if Zach should have got to that. I don't know, but I can tell you that Stefan's distribution in this game was not anything to write home about. And if your argument for Stefan over Turner is the distribution that Stefan brings, we did not see that tonight. So that's one thing to say moving forward. And I know BW says 15% blame on Zach, 85 on Adams. I mean, what do you want Adams to do there? I mean, Michail Antonio is an absolute monster. Tyler Adams was all over him, but Michail Antonio just shrugged him off and just hit an absolute wonder strike. I mean, there's times in soccer when there's just nothing you could do, man. I mean, that was a very, very low percentage shot that Michail Antonio took, and he hit it exquisitely. I mean, I don't know how many times out of 100 that he would be able to replicate that. Sometimes you just got to, accept that it happens and move on. Like Adam Stan says, I take 250 shots with no defenders, and I still miss everyone from that spot. And yeah, I think that's where I'm sitting right now. That's sometimes in soccer that happens, man. Sometimes you hit the wonder strike, and that's the variance within this game. That's why it's so important to get the points whenever you can. And we were lucky to get away with points tonight. Walter Roman says Jamaica's goal was top quality and would have gone in regardless of what keeper was in goal. So I can definitely see that. I mean, that was a absolute wonder strike, and I'm glad I wasn't the goalie in net for that particular one. So here we are. We are currently in first place in the group. We've got another point over Mexico. We'll see what happens tonight with Mexico and Canada. I'm very excited for that game. They're calling it the what is it? The Snowteca or something like that. It's an absolute frozen night in Edmonton, and I'm very curious to see how the Mexican players respond to that, and even how the Canadian players respond to that. And like, nobody likes being cold and play in that kind of weather. So I'm very curious to see how that shakes out. It could possibly be a big shakeup in the leaderboard if Canada are able to get 3 points tonight over Mexico. Greg Dubb says, as critical as I am on Greg, I don't think he can be blamed for this one. Your thoughts? He got the lineup right, I thought, but I thought that the substitutions were a little bit questionable. I was disappointed that he took off Weah. Weah was our most dangerous attacker in the first half, and he has size. And whenever you replace him with Pulisic, Aronson and Pulisic are not the tallest players, so we lose that player that we can play long balls to up top to help us win balls. And you saw that in the second half. As soon as Weah was off the field, our ability to win those long balls just plummeted. And then you take off Musa as well for Acosta. I would have rather seen Bucio come off for Acosta if you have to bring Acosta in. Musa was our best or at least I don't want to say he was our best midfielder, but he was his ability to connect the defense from the attack was unparalleled in this game, and once he came out, we struggled at that point. So you do have to question the substitutions that Berhalter did. I think they hurt the team more than they helped the team. Cole of Centauri says, with a $4.99 donation, watching from a soccer bar in Milwaukee, great work, dude. Think we can clinch in January. Yeah, we're not far away from clinching. And I think part of it's going to depend on what the teams on the bottom of the table do. So that'll help us out, but we're really well on our way. We've got some games at home that we're really going to be favored in, and as long as things don't absolutely completely fall apart, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to clinch sooner rather than later. So that's the big positive. I think we did what we had to do in this window in order to stay on schedule. It's going to be a disappointing result against Jamaica, and it's going to be one that we're going to be thinking about for a while because we got a while to sit on it before January, and it's really probably going to color the conversation. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about Jedi Robinson's game about his ability with the ball at his feet compared to like maybe a Joe Scally. If Joe Scally just continues to have game after wonderful game after wonderful game for Borussia Mönchengladbach, I think a lot of people are going to be calling for him to start over Robinson, which is interesting. It's not something you would have thought heading into this window. It's not something you would have necessarily thought after the Mexico game, but after that performance against Jamaica, I think people are going to be calling for that. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Snowteca. Is that what it is? Yeah, the Snowteca. I think that people are going to be calling for this midfield with Buccio. Like, how does Buccio integrate? You know, it wasn't the strongest performance from him, and it's going to be really interesting to see once Gio Reyna returns to fitness, which he's supposed to be doing by the new year. So how does Gio Reyna return to fitness? What happens there? And then there's this whole other element that's going to be added, which is the winter transfer window. So potentially Ricardo Pepi makes a move. Potentially Caden Clark makes a move. There's other players that are going to be making moves, and if they hit the ground running with their squad, it's going to affect things. In the case of Ricardo Pepi, if he fails to hit the ground running with his squad, that's going to affect things. So there's going to be a lot of discussion moving forward into January. But to the question of whether or not we can clinch, I think that we're pretty favored at this point to sealing the deal, especially whenever you consider the way Mexico is playing right now. They don't look like the most dangerous squad in the world. I heard it Ice Teca. Yeah, I think it's Ice Teca. I don't know. Either way, I like Snow Teca. I like Ice Teca. I think Ice Teca is the one. Yeah, Tom says Pulisic may go to Barca. That's one of the rumors out there. We'll see. You know, it's always silly season in the winter transfer window, and that's going to affect things in a big way. I mean, once players start moving places, there's rumors that Weston McKennie is going to transfer to the EPL. So there's rumors of Tyler Adams is going to – I saw Tyler Adams to Arsenal is a rumor out there. So there's a world in which we come back for that January window, and a lot of our top guys are playing for different club teams, and that's going to add another element. I don't know whether it'll be a positive element or a negative element right now, but it's definitely going to shake things up. So the U.S. men's national team, as we know it, the one that beat Mexico 2-0, put a bow around that one and wrap it up, because by the time January comes around, it might not necessarily be the same team, and there might be different things that happen for the squad, different players that come in. It's always a flowing thing in the world of soccer. Things are never the same for long, especially whenever it comes to a U.S. men's national team that has so many young players and so many moving parts right now. Overall, I think that the squad's in a good position now, even with that rough 1-1 game against Jamaica. I still think we're in a great position to qualify. Yale Ortega says, what are your thoughts on the away games that they struggle to play? I mean, I think away games are just always going to be difficult in CONCACAF. I think we saw the U.S. really struggle to hit long balls. There was a lot of players who struggled to have quality touches of the ball. A lot of first touches were bad. I mean, Anthony Robinson was the worst on the team, but there was other players who had poor touches at inopportune moments. And I think you saw the same thing for Jamaica. I saw like Leon Bailey had a few balls that just got away from him. And whenever you see that on both sides of the field, I think that speaks to the pitch and to the quality of the field and everything. So I think that's always going to be difficult from the U.S. It's always going to be difficult going down to Central America and the Caribbean and wherever else and play these away games, especially when you have such a young squad. So I think CONCACAF away is always going to be difficult. And I don't think that there's going to come a day where we see the U.S. play the same way away that we saw them play against Mexico, where they're possessing the ball and creating beautiful chances and playing beautiful soccer. I think that's just part of the deal. But I think as this squad grows and as we get towards the back half of World Cup qualifying, I think that experience and that familiarity and that cohesion is going to lead to a squad that is able to get these results and is able to fend off like a very physical Jamaica squad that is able to rough them up and has bigger players and all that. So That's all part of it. That's all CONCACAF away. Drag says DK deserves a chance to play with the first team. I think his only time was the friendly against Northern Ireland as a sub. No, he also played against. He played with Costa Rica. He played against Costa Rica during the Nations League window. Maybe you're saying that wasn't the first team. Maybe that's what you mean. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, Daryl DK had a dip in form at an inopportune time, but I think his form's kind of picking back up, and he's another player that might get transferred in the January transfer window. And as you saw, the U.S. brought Jesus Ferreira as the second striker in this window. And to me, that means that the striker position is wide open for the U.S. men's national team. So DK has just as good a shot as anybody else at this point, especially if he's able to secure a transfer in the winter window and hit the ground running for a club. I don't see why a club in the championship wouldn't be looking for the signature of Daryl DK, considering how good he played last time he was over there. Adam Stam says, Sam, you have one more forward to call in for tonight's game. Health doesn't matter. Who do you call? Boy, that's a tough one. I think Daryl DK is the answer because we were playing so many long balls. Daryl DK is the player with the physicality and the strength to actually win balls against those giant Jamaican defenders. And that's something that I said when we first saw the lineup released. Like, if you're late in the game and you need a goal, who are you going to bring in? Is Jesus Ferreira that guy? And I think we saw tonight where the U.S. was kind of lumping balls forward. Like Jesus Ferreira is just, I really like Jesus Ferreira. He has a ton of quality on the ball, but he's just not a guy that's going to go out and win headers and like be a factor on set pieces or anything like that. Daryl DK is a player that could do that. So I was disappointed that we didn't bring at least, I think DK or PFOC or somebody like that who could be a factor in that type of game. I thought that was poor planning from the start. So that's who I would call in at the moment. Josue says, did the pitch play a factor? It looked like a high school field, actually more like a middle school. I think the pitch definitely played a factor. I think it played a factor for both sides. Maybe Reed doesn't miss that sitter in the six if the pitch is a little bit better. Maybe the ball took a touch that he wasn't expecting. I mean, we saw a lot of players that play at a very high level for the U.S. just have crazy bad touches, misjudge the ball, all that. And I think the pitch is the reason why. It was really disappointing all night. Matt K says, I've been telling people the U.S. will be good in 15 to 20 years. Back in 2011, the U.S. trajectory is headed that way because that wasn't it tonight. Yeah, I think the trajectory is still it. I think, look, man, there's times when Manchester City goes out and loses to Norwich. Soccer is a game with a ton of variance. The best team doesn't always win, even if the team is overwhelmingly better. I mean, we saw Real Madrid lose to Sheriff in the Champions League, even though the Sheriff team is looking a little bit better than people were expecting. The quality of the players, sometimes you throw that out the window. Things can happen. And I saw tonight with a not-so-great pitch in some little slightly rainy conditions with a referee that was really just allowing a lot of orange to purple fouls out there, not bringing out a lot of cards. That happens. It's going to happen, and it's the reason why the U.S. needs to take care of games at home and just savor these ties on the road. This was a night, there were games in the past for the U.S., like that El Salvador game, where I came away disappointed because, like, that was one we definitely could have had, and we just didn't seize our chances whenever we had them. Tonight, we probably shouldn't have. We probably should have lost, man. We probably should have lost. So I'm feeling like, we got away with one tonight. So I'm disappointed that the team didn't play better, but happy that we were able to get away with that point. That point could become huge down the road whenever it comes to actually winning the group in World Cup qualifying. Drag says, we don't play down the middle enough for Jesus to be effective, in my opinion. Well, we don't play. We do at the best of times. Whenever we're playing at home and we have a nice field and we're able to move the ball on the field, yes, yeah. And I think he looked decent in that game against Mexico. He had that touch back to Weston that kind of sprang Weston for that goal off the Mexican defender. But tonight is a night where, Jamaica had those big trees for center backs back there. and they were being big and physical and allowed to be a little bit extra physical by the official. And none of that is unexpected. We knew all that going in. That's kind of how CONCACAF away games go, but we still elected to bring Jesus Ferreira. And a lot of what he brings to the table was neutralized due to all that. So disappointing there. GTM says biggest takeaway from this window. And the biggest takeaway from this window for me is just another 2 games where the MMA midfield or another 90 minutes where the MMA midfield gets to play together. I think each time this midfield goes out together, they're going to get a little bit better and better. I was happy to see Bucio integrated in this game. He did not have a great game, but he has much better games in him. I think familiarity is going to be a good thing, so that next time in qualifiers, if you got to bring Bucio in, they're going to be that much more familiar. Adams and Musa are going to be that much more understanding of where Bucio is. I think that Weah stepped up in a big way during this window. Weah is one of those players that even if Pulisic and Reyna are fully fit, like he's definitely right behind him. I think those 2 players are still ahead of him, but I think that they're right behind him. And like Greg Dub says, how do you see Gio and Weah in the same starting 11? Would it require a formation change? And yeah, I don't think it would require a formation change. I think it would require a change in how the team approaches that formation. Because currently, our midfielders drop back a lot, and our wingers push very far forward. If Gio Reyna was playing as an 8 to accommodate for Weah to be playing on the wing, you wouldn't want Reyna dropping as far back as you see Musa do. You'd want him to be further up the field. So it would require a slight change in the way that we play. It's definitely possible, but whenever you consider, like, you have Anthony Robinson who likes to get upfield and you have Des who likes to get upfield, the balance that you would require is a little bit iffy. But then again, if you look at a lot of the top European squads out there, not everybody has 3 midfielders who are just like crazy hustle. There are a lot of teams that have a midfielder who's more of an attacker, and that could be Gio Reyna. Personally, I don't think that we'll see Reyna, Pulisic, and Weah on the field together. I think Berhalter sticks to his guns and keeps Gio up top as a winger. That's just how I see it playing out. I think that there's potential that in games where somebody's really parking the bus, we can see a midfielder get subbed out later on and Weah come in and Gio move into that midfield position. I don't see it starting that way. That's just kind of my read on Berhalter right now. Vince O says, I'm happy I learned tonight that I'm a fully qualified international referee. Guys, if this is your first experience seeing that the away officials in CONCACAF are not that great, well, surprise. This is how it is, man. You got to understand that whenever referees are selected for these games, it's going to be a referee from within CONCACAF, but it's not going to be from the federations that are playing. And the 2 biggest federations in CONCACAF are Mexico and the United States. MLS referees and Liga MX referees are going to be the best of the bunch. But while the U.S. is playing, the best we can hope for is a Liga MX referee, and oftentimes that's not what we get. We're going to get a referee from the Costa Rica League. We're going to get a referee from the Jamaica League. It could be anywhere within CONCACAF. And oftentimes those guys are not used to refereeing a game with such high stakes, that's so fast moving, with such athletic players, and it definitely shows. And there's times whenever they let a lot go that you don't normally see in a CONCACAF, in a MLS game or a Liga MX game, and they're not the best at managing things, and that's just the way it is. I'm very curious to see how VAR gets integrated, VAR, into CONCACAF qualifying. It's supposed to be integrated by the time January window comes around, but once again, there's going to be a lot of officials that are going to be using VAR for the first time, because a lot of these leagues that a lot of these officials coming from do not have VAR. So how do they handle that is going to be a whole nother fiasco. We saw when VAR was first integrated in England specifically, I mean, it was absolute chaos. So you're going to have more or less the same thing in the back half of qualifying when VAR gets integrated. Brent A says, what were we doing taking Musa and Weah off? That was the self-harm game changer of the year. Also, we need to just accept the pretty boys don't cut it away from home. Just throw on the trucks. Brent, yeah, I was also disappointed with subbing off Weah and Musa. I thought those were probably the 2 most effective attacking players of the first half. Those two really combined to make a lot happen. And when we took them off, I think we lost a ton of momentum. I don't know about the pretty boys in the trucks scenario. I think that there's a world where the pretty boys can play well away. And also, a lot of our pretty boys are also trucks. Like, I would call Weston McKennie both a pretty boy and a truck. Brendan Aronson at times is both a pretty boy and a truck. Tyler Adams is certainly both a pretty boy and a truck. And I'd say Yunus Musa, pretty boy, truck. So there's few players, maybe like Kellen Acosta is just a truck, not a pretty boy. Maybe we'd have to sit and have a conversation about who is a truck and who is a pretty boy. But for my money, a lot of our pretty boys are trucks. So it's going to be an interesting turn of events whenever we move forward in CONCACAF. Tom says VAR will change CONCACAF. I agree, man. There's been so many screwy things that have happened in CONCACAF. I believe the U.S. was playing Costa Rica a few World Cup qualifiers ago where a Costa Rica defender just walked up to Matt Beasler and touched him and fell down, and Beasler got a yellow card. It was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. That's the type of stuff that you see in CONCACAF on a regular basis. I mean, we saw the other day when Chaka Rodriguez just kind of gripped Brendan Aronson's face and then raked, and then that was just did he even get a yellow card for that? I think he got a yellow. But yeah, VAR will be a big change to that. Brent says my truck short list is Kyle Beckerman. And I don't know about Kyle Beckerman at this point. I think that's a lost cause. I'm pretty sure he's retired internationally, and I'm fairly sure that he's retired at the club level, and I'm fairly sure that they put like a statue of him in RSL, or they did something recently where they put his face in the grass or in the stands or something like that. I don't know. Either way, guys, I'm running up on 50 minutes after the game, so it's time to wrap this thing up. Disappointing night for the U.S. Men's National Team fans, but I think whenever we look back on this window, we're going to be grateful that we got that point away against Jamaica. So a weird game where we didn't play up to the level that we wanted to play, but we got away with one. We got a point. We got a tough earned point in Jamaica. Mikel Antonio, incredible player, made an incredible play. And beyond that, Jamaica really brought it. One of the better Jamaica sides that I've seen in quite some time, maybe living up to that hype that they had coming into World Cup qualifying. So we'll see if Jamaica is able to close that gap and move into maybe that fourth place position or even that third place position. I'd say that third place position is probably a bridge too far for Jamaica, but potentially they can beat out Panama for that fourth place position. The U.S., meanwhile, we still have our sights focused on qualifying for the World Cup, and it is within our sights. And with this big 4 points within this window, sure, we would have loved 6 points, but 4 points will get the job done as well and get us that much closer to qualifying for a World Cup. So guys, thank you so much for being in the chat tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out. Disappointing result. Wish it could be better. I should have another video coming out tomorrow. It'll be an interview with a very special guest. And I hope to see you guys in that chat as well, because I believe I'll be doing that live as well. Guys, thank you so much. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it already. If you would like to, you can become a member and support the channel directly. You'll get access to some cool badges, and you'll get access to behind the scenes content and stuff like that. And I'd love to see you in the member section. But thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for all that. Tough night. 1-1 Jamaica. U.S. still in a great position to qualify for the World Cup. My name is Sam.